My name is Larry Klayman. You know me as the founder of both Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch. I'm also a former federal prosecutor of the U.S. Department of Justice. I'm coming to you today to follow up on prior YouTubes and podcasts where I pointed out not just the hypocrisy of President Obama, of Hillary Clinton and her band of criminals, most notable of which is John Podesta, somebody that I locked horns with back in the 1990s as he was White House Chief of Staff and obstructed justice by suppressing about 1 million emails inside the White House at that time that bore on many Clinton scandals. They were not produced to either independent counsel Ken Starr or Robert Ray, either Judicial Watch that I was running at the time, or Congress. We now see him front and center, John Podesta, along with other Clinton criminals, including the President of the United States, who's a collaborator, Barack Hussein Obama, and his cohorts, such as Josh Earnest, the White House press secretary, who are attempting to subvert the election results of the last November 8th, 2016, which elected Donald Trump President of the United States. This is unprecedented in American history, that a president would intervene along with Hollywood liberal types and others, and of course the Clinton criminals led by Podesta, to try to convince electors to vote for someone that the American people did not vote for. Now, there's a story here that has not been told. This is not just a question of whether Russia hacked emails of the Democratic National Committee or Podesta's own private email account. And we know that those emails showed Podesta and the other Clintons' criminality in many of the things they were doing. And if it wasn't just criminality, it was the collusion with the leftist media, this vicious leftist media, which frankly borders on socialist and atheist, that tried to make an effort to keep Trump from being elected. Now, I didn't endorse anybody, but I'm going to stand there for the sanctity of who the American people voted for to make sure that he becomes the president to the extent that I can at Freedom Watch. And you can see what we do at www.freedomwatchusa.org. But the other side of the story here is that our Central Intelligence Agency is run by a political hack by the name of John Brennan. And that explains these leaks that have been made to the Washington Post, to the New York Times, that Russia influenced the election, in effect fixed the election. And of course, when called upon the CIA to produce witnesses to Congress just this week, they didn't show up. So this is a political hack, whether or not Russia engages in hacking. And our government does the same thing, believe me. In fact, our government, so-called government, because it really isn't, it doesn't represent we the people, which helps explain Trump's election because he's promised to clean house. We'll see if he does it. But this government has been spying on hundreds of millions of Americans for decades. It started under the administration of George W. Bush in a major way, warrantless wiretaps on American citizens, where there was no probable cause under our Fourth Amendment to conduct reasonable searches and seizures to get their telephonic metadata, their telephone communications, their internet communications, their social media. This started under George W. Bush, so-called W. And it continued, but got much worse under the Obama administration, where thanks to Edward Snowden, we know that hundreds of millions of Americans' telephone records have been obtained on a daily basis. Not terrorists, not criminals, but all of us. And this is very dangerous. It's like George Orwell in 1984. This is a sword of Damocles. This is Big Brother watching over us, a coercive effect to keep us quiet or coerce us into going along with what's in effect a tyrannical dictatorship, particularly under Barack Hussein Obama. I might add a dictatorship that favored Muslim interests and African American interests and all of his so-called interests over everybody else. And that explains why Hillary Clinton lost the election. Because people rose up. They said, you're supposed to be the president of all the people. And Hillary said, well, I'm going to be just like Obama. I'm just going to favor certain people in this country. So what we have here with the CIA and with its sister agency, the NSA, was an effort to spy on all Americans. And I went to court about 3 years ago, and on 2 occasions got Judge Richard Leon of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia to order that stop, that it was a violation of the Fourth Amendment. We were the only one who succeeded in doing that. Even the ACLU, our leftist, communist-oriented friends, couldn't do that. So the reality is that they have been caught red-handed doing this. Now, in the process of that, I had the opportunity to meet an individual by the name of Dennis Montgomery, who came forward. He was a CIA NSA contractor. He worked closely with John Brennan, with James Clapper, who was Director of National Intelligence, with General Keith Alexander, who was running the NSA. And he told me that these agencies have been harvesting the confidential information of very prominent Americans and others over the years. And he had 47 hard drives, we learned with over 600 million pages of material, which showed this surveillance that was going on, this illegal surveillance. The CIA in particular cannot do domestic spying. It's a crime. And I took Mr. Montgomery to the FBI. I went through a judge in Washington, D.C. by the name of Royce Lamberth, who knew the general counsel. Royce Lamberth is one of the finest judges in this country, if not, frankly, in the second part of the 20th century. Very honest guy. And he arranged for me to meet with the general counsel of the FBI, James Baker, who then, and he was working under Director James Comey, who set up an opportunity for Montgomery to come forward, and we were able to get immunity through the U.S. Attorney in Washington, D.C., for him to come forward. I've never seen anything that Montgomery has, and it was all turned over to the FBI with an immunity agreement that he would be exonerated from anything that might be alleged, and that he could come forward and testify orally. And Montgomery did that about 1.5 years ago. He testified to FBI agents, special agents. He elucidated on the documents and information and hard drives he was producing, and pinned criminality on Brennan, on the current director of the CIA, and James Clapper and others, for surveying Americans, prominent people, harvesting them, including the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Roberts, another Justice, Ginsburg, prominent businessmen, undoubtedly Trump is involved, and others. In fact, even yours truly was harvested. And the FBI is investigating this right now. I don't know what they're doing with it because I'm not entitled to. I'm not currently with the Justice Department. I was when I was a young lawyer. But these agents are looking at it, and it's being taken seriously. And here's the real story here, is that whether or not Russia hacked our election, American people voted for who they wanted to be president. And what came out, whether it came through the Russians or somebody else through WikiLeaks, certainly didn't come through our broken court system, showed the criminality of the Clinton crowd and the collusion of the leftist media with them. But even more important than that, it showed criminality on a grand scale of the CIA. And this is what should be investigated, and it shouldn't be swept under the carpet. And these matters were brought to the attention of Congress by Montgomery long before he came to me and Freedom Watch. It's very serious when a government is basically spying on the American people and prominent judges. It can be used for coercive purposes, it can be used for blackmail, and probably has been. We have a higher power in this country than even the President of the United States. These intelligence agencies have the ability to coerce the rest of the populace, to enslave them into servitude. If King George III had this capability back in 1776, the Founding Fathers never would have made their way to Philadelphia. They would have been surveyed, picked up, arrested, and executed before they ever had a chance to declare independence on or about July 4th, 1776, and create a new nation. That's how dangerous this is. And who's behind this? Barack Obama, John Brennan, James Clapper, these intelligence agencies. They've ramped it up from even the days of George W. Bush, and they've created really a 1984 Orwellian state. In fact, the Judge Leon, made reference to the fact that we're currently living in an almost Orwellian state. I needed to bring this to the attention of the American people because the real issues are being lost. The Obama administration, through the president, through his press spokesperson, the very dishonest Josh Earnest, who's frankly as dishonest as the president himself, are trying to subvert election results. We have these crazy people out here in Hollywood who are trying to also play a role, but the American people have spoken. But beyond that, we need to do a thorough investigation of the CIA, the NSA, and the intelligence agencies because they're being used for improper purposes, and it's highly dangerous. So if you want to see more about this, go to our website at freedomwatchusa.org, freedomwatchusa.org. Donate to our cause because, we have to make sure that this in fact happens. The FBI does a real investigation here. We need to oversee that to the extent we can. We cannot look at classified information, but we have to make sure they're doing their job, and we've never looked at that. But The American people need to rise up because we are in a revolutionary state. The Clintons, the Obamas, the Bidens, others, they don't like the fact that Trump won the election. They've lost their control on power. They are socialists. They are pro-Islamic. They won't even call Islamic terrorism for what it is. They are contrary to the state of Israel, which is our biggest ally in the Middle East. These people are truly evil, and we cannot let them wage a revolution by subverting this country, by making allegations that are trying to deny President Donald J. Trump from actually being inaugurated on January 20th. But beyond that, we need to see what these intelligence agencies and investigate have been doing, and we know what they've been doing. It's been criminal, and it's highly destructive of this nation. It's potentially even fatal. So go to freedomwatchusa.org. If you can donate to our cause, obviously we're the mouse that roared. But even if you can't, we want your prayers. We want you to know what's going on. And God bless you. God bless America. To you and your loved ones, have a great holiday period. But please keep this in your mind as we thank God that we exist and we are a free nation as of right now. But if we don't, we the people rise up, that won't be for much longer. God bless you all.